Hi, I'm Scott Hanselman, and I'm here at TechEd, and I'm doing a Grok talk on 10 utilities in 10 minutes. I'm the RD for Oregon, and I'm the chief architect at 𝘍𝙬𝙤𝙬 Corporation. These 10 utilities are 10 utilities that I think are essential for any developer, any Windows enthusiast. These are 10 utilities that I couldn't live without. I carry these on my USB key, and let's start with our first utility. First utility is a program called 𝘍𝙬𝙜𝙬. 𝘍𝙬𝙜𝙬 is something that you can bind to your Windows key. I've bound mine to Windows Q. Notice how when I move my mouse from location to location and I hit Windows Q, 𝘍𝙬𝙜𝙬 will pop up exactly where my mouse is. I can start typing immediately, and 𝘍𝙬𝙜𝙬 will do IntelliSense on the paths that I want to be visiting, and then I can hit Enter. It'll pop up Explorer. 𝘍𝙬𝙜𝙬 also has the notion of magic words. I've set up a series of magic words like define to, say, define a particular word, and launch a browser to go off into the Merriam-Webster dictionary. You can set up any kind of word that you want in 𝘍𝙬𝙬𝙬 to go from location to location. I've also set up a number of magic words to take me to things like hibernation and standby states. 𝘍𝙬𝙬𝙬 is a fantastic utility, highly recommended. The next one is the one that I'm actually editing in right now, which is called Notepad 2. Notepad 2 is exactly like Notepad, except it's one better. You could also call that Notepad++ if you wanted to. Notepad 2 is distributed by a fellow named Flo at Flo's Freeware. You can search on Google for Notepad 2. It's exactly like Notepad, but it adds things like a toolbar, line numbers, which is a subtle change, also the ability to zoom in and zoom out. This also works when you use the Control key and scroll with your mouse wheel. It also has a couple of more advanced things that the developer might appreciate, like white space, line endings, wrap symbols. Notice how I've got spaces for my white space, and I can hit Tab and I can see those tabs. I can also switch between ANSI and Unicode, and I can switch from CRLF, LF. This is really convenient when working with Unix files. My next utility that I've been using to move from place to place is called Task Switch XP. This is not the Windows power toy that a lot of people have seen, which was released a while back. Task Switch XP is actually an open source tool that was written entirely in assembler. It takes screenshots of whatever you're working on and keeps those in memory. I'll bring up a series of windows now. And when I task switch from place to place, notice I get a preview of what I'm about to see. But from the developer's point of view, it also gives me a couple of additional things, like the PID of that particular thing that I'm visiting. I can move around with the mouse, so I can use Alt-Tab with one hand, the mouse with the other to pick what I want. It's a really, really quick way to find myself around Windows. I use it all the time. Another thing that I think is important, especially for people who are going to be presenting or people who are at TechEd, is if you've ever been to a TechEd presentation, you see that a lot of the fonts look like this. And I don't know why the Windows program managers seem to think that we can see those fonts, especially when we're sitting in the back. This is why I like things like zooming in with tools like Notepad 2, but I also recommend tools like Magnifixer or Zoom In. These are tools that give you a magnification over where your cursor is. Magnifixer is nice because as I start typing, I can see what's happening underneath the cursor, and Magnifixer will keep updating what's going on. Additionally, all of its settings are kept automatically saved. I can magnify in and out for showing things like sub-pixel addressing and anti-aliasing. It's very, very convenient. And for the HTML developer, it also shows RGB values in the lower corner. Definitely have a magnifier if you're going to be doing any kind of work on stage. Another tool is Reflector. I'll use 𝘍𝙬𝙬𝙬 to bring up Reflector. Reflector is amazing because it lets you go into any .NET assembly and actually look at the source code through decompilation. I can go here into Reflector, into System.xml, and hit the spacebar and see the source code from within the actual Windows base class library. Each of the words within this code view are actually hyperlinked, so I can click on them and find and automatically hyperlink to the appropriate location. Additionally, Reflector includes a whole series of add-ins. These are add-ins that you can write, that anyone can write, to do things like assembly dependency graphs automatically. Here's a dependency graph. I can base it on system.xml. It'll show me what assemblies depend on what. Totally invaluable. I use Reflector more than MSDN. CodeRush is a fantastic tool that I've been pimping furiously as I run around town here. With CodeRush, I can do things like come into my code, type in C space, start typing the name of a class. Notice that it's keeping my constructor organized. I can type, I want a method that returns a date time, and I want a property that's a Boolean, and then I want the name of that to be Scott Hanselman. Notice that it's doing right there. CodeRush is totally invaluable. Additionally, it has a series of refactoring tools where I can rename things. For example, if I were going to rename this method, notice that I hover over it, I hit the refactor button, and now I can add whatever I want to. It has a whole series of refactorings, totally invaluable and pretty inexpensive considering the work that it does. TestDriven.net is a pretty amazing tool that's also a Visual Studio add-in. TestDriven.net allows me to add test-driven development directly into Visual Studio 1.x. This will work in 2003 or 2005. I can right-click and say Run Tests, and this will automatically go and say Build Test. Here we see that one test succeeded. A lot of us use NUnit to do our unit testing, but we have a tendency to go and jump over to the NUnit GUI in order to do our debugging, and we have to go and say Debug attached to process. With this, I can actually set a breakpoint, right-click, say Test with Debugger. It'll pop up, and if you notice this little guy down here in the corner, that's the out-of-process test runner. Now, I've popped up, and I'm at a breakpoint in the middle of the test. Absolutely invaluable, fantastic stuff. There's a million different programs that will do print screens, but Cropper is my favorite because Cropper is written in .NET. It's transparent. I can hover around. Notice the upper left-hand corner of Cropper is showing me the size of the pixels. I can right-click, say that I want this to be a particular JPEG, hit Enter, move, hit Enter, move, hit Enter, and then I can go and see that Cropper has made a folder on my desktop called Cropper, and all of my screen captures are right there. It'll also add things into the clipboard. An invaluable tool, incredibly fast, very simple to use. Now, this section here is special because it means anything from sysinternals.com is amazing. It's fantastic. One that I like is Process Explorer, which is basically Task Manager on steroids. Process Explorer is pretty powerful stuff because it'll let you actually see the DLLs that are loaded into the memory space of your particular application. Process Explorer can totally replace Task Manager, and if we scroll down here, notice that I've got a green line there. That green line is indicating that this is a process that the .NET runtime is loaded within. I can click on that, and down here it says refreshing DLLs, and then we're going to get a list of the DLLs that are loaded in process. So if you ever have a confusion about what version of a DLL is being loaded in process, or particularly that you want to find a DLL that's actually loaded in memory, like what process has that DLL loaded, you can use Process Explorer. It's the bomb. You can also use auto runs from sysinternals. This is an aggregated view of all the different things that start up on your system, whether they're in the registry, WinINI, System INI, Startup, wherever, all from sysinternals. Fantastic. And then the one that I use the more than anything is the Windows Desktop Search. That's this little bar down here. Sits inside of your taskbar. I can start typing. Pops up my contacts, communications, music. Actually, these are my Vonage voicemails. Pictures. I can type in the name of some code. This is a class that appears in some code. I see that code. What's significant about it, though, is I can right-click, and this is the full Explorer. These are actual Explorer objects. So all of my Explorer add-ins, where I've got Notepad 2 as a quick add-in, CDS, WinZip, all appear right there, which means that I can come down here, start typing a particular bit of information, see what I want, hit right-click, hit Open Containing Folder. Automatically, I'm right there. I can go here, I can right-click, and I can hit Notepad 2, pop it up, and that's 10 utilities in 10 minutes. I've been Scott Hanselman. Thank you very much.